So Dr. Mike is gonna tell us the fucking truth about raw milk. Let's get right into it.
People love milk.
Pour me a glass!
Yes, they do.
I get it. It has minerals, vitamins, protein. There's actually
Essentially, it has everything to sustain life, every nutrient you need.
so many options for milk in the aisles that the dairy industry has begun to complain that nut milk isn't real milk. But right
It's not.
now,
This is one of the most healing foods on the planet, and our government says it's illegal.
there's one milk
I think you will notice immediately how valuable this food is for humans.
that's all the rage.
It's normal and healthy. It's way easier for you to digest.
True.
Raw milk. So what is raw milk? It's
Raw milk is just milk, like nature intended to.
milk that hasn't been pasteurized, meaning it hasn't gone through the heating process that kills harmful
Great, we need an entire factory to make our food healthy.
bacteria and pathogens. It's straight from the cow, unprocessed and unfiltered. Advocates say it's more natural.
By the way, the medical industry cannot prove whether those bacteria are harmful in the first place.
And therefore more nutritious than pasteurized milk. But is it really better for you? To cover the entire
Yes.
truth behind raw milk, we need to look at how humans started consuming milk in the first place. Milk has been part of the human diet for thousands of years, ever since people domesticated cows and other livestock. Back then, milk was consumed fresh, straight from the farm. It was an important source of nutrition for rural communities. But as cities grew during the industrial era, milk production changed, and not in a good way. Actually, in the 1800s, milk turned into a full-on public health threat. It was being
How can you prove that?
shipped over longer distances and produced in increasingly dirtier urban environments.
Okay, still. That probably just means that the animals were sicker and fed crap, which in turn would not mean that the milk or the raw milk itself is dangerous, but drinking milk from sick animal is dangerous.
These changes led to outbreaks of deadly diseases like bovine tuberculosis, typhoid fever, and diphtheria. These
How can you prove that these were directly linked to the milk? I don't think you can.
illnesses weren't mild either. They were often fatal, especially for children and infants. Producers tried to preserve milk by adding formaldehyde to it. Formaldehyde, the same
So you see how he said producers tried to extend the life of the milk. So it makes you beg the question, was any of these methods in the health's public interest, or was it just to extend the shelf life of the milk so that it can maximize their profit?
chemical we used to embalm corpses. Not surprisingly, it didn't solve the problem as it didn't kill enough bacteria and kids kept getting sick. Fortunately, a solution came in the form of pasteurization, a process invented in 1864 by Louis Pasteur, originally creating it to sanitize wine.
In the pasteurizer, the milk is heated to exactly 161 degrees for just 15 seconds, and then is quickly cooled to about 35 degrees.
At first, doctors worried that heating milk would destroy its nutrients, but when
It does.
unpasteurized milk kept killing babies, the medical community fully came around.
But how can you prove mechanistically that it's the milk itself that kills the babies? Was it because the milk was toxic? Was it the bacteria in it? How do you even prove that?
Actually, in New York City, pasteurization laws cut the infant mortality rate dramatically, from 240 deaths per 1,000 births in 1891 to just 71
From 1891 to 1920s, there was significant advancement in technology, in food access, and probably in medicine too. How can you make, this is just an association, how can you prove it when these babies weren't in a lab under control environment, only fed raw milk? There's a multitude of factors back then. And I'm pretty sure back in 1891, it was pretty difficult to find food, or even the milk production was probably very bad. If the cows are sick or they eat their unnatural diet, like being fed grains or all sorts of shit like that, the milk becomes a detoxification pathway for the cows. Remember, for every animals, even for humans, our body will always store toxins in the fat. Since milk is pretty high in fat, it is an excellent detoxification pathways for the cow. That means that yes, the milk could be toxic if the cow are sick themselves or if the cows are eating an unnatural diet. But can you prove in isolation specifically that these children's deaths were caused because of the bacteria contained in the milk? I don't think you can.
deaths per 1,000 in 1921. By the 1920s, pasteurized milk was the norm. The federal government established a gold standard for how milk should be pasteurized, stored, shipped, and distributed.
Because they don't tell you the causes of death of those children. I know that back then, doctors weren't even washing their hands before delivering a baby. So our understanding of just fundamental basic sanitization was also drastically different.
This was called the Grade A Pasteurized Milk Ordinance. That's why on grocery store shelves and on the back of milk cartons, you see it says Grade A on it. But this wasn't a mandatory policy. Local and state governments could choose not to adopt it. Most states, however, did go on to pass laws about milk pasteurization, even fully banning the sale of unpasteurized milk. The first and only federal pasteurization law was passed in 1987, and it banned all interstate sales of unpasteurized milk. That means a farm can't produce raw milk in one state and then ship it to another for it to be sold. But remember, all of these pasteurization laws that we're talking about are about selling it, not drinking it. It's always been legal to consume raw milk anywhere in the country. With the lack of access, raw milk was pushed to the fringe for most of the 20th century.
Yeah, but if you can't buy it, how are you going to consume it? I think, in my opinion, whether you want pasteurized milk or not, it shouldn't be illegal. You should have the right as a human to choose what you put in your body without the government getting involved.
But it has made a huge comeback in recent.
What do you guys think? I live in Canada and milk is illegal here and it pisses the shit out of me. Please comment down below if milk is legal in the country you live in.
Years. The organic and natural food movements of the 2000s helped make it popular, and today raw milk sales are absolutely soaring. In 2019, according to the FDA, 4.4% of Americans said they'd consumed raw milk in the last year. That number is almost certainly bigger today since the raw milk movement has really picked up steam in the last 2 years. Weekly sales of raw milk increased by 21% just last year. And one recent survey found that about 1/4 of American adults either don't think pasteurization kills bacteria and viruses or aren't sure if it does. There's also been a trend of states relaxing their raw milk restrictions. In 1999, 26 states had full bans on the sale of raw milk. Today, only 11 do.
Thanks to Argenus van de Planets. I know when he started back then in the 80s, I think it was illegal in every state. I think he's the one who first legalized it. I think it was in California, so good to him.
Some states allow it to be sold directly to consumers by the farms. Others that ban the sale of raw milk still even allow what's known as herd shares. That means even if raw milk can't be sold commercially, state residents can buy shared ownership in a cow or a herd of cows and then get a portion of whatever raw milk is produced that way. Another weird tactic I find kind of shady that raw milk producers use to bypass state laws is to sell raw milk labeled as pet food. But why is everyone going through all that trouble just to access raw milk? Well,
because it's better, for fuck's sake. I would encourage you to look into Louis Pasteur, the French guy who invented pasteurization. I think he said to his student on his deathbed that bacteria were not the cause of most diseases, but in fact it was the environment of which they can thrive or not. Meaning the terrain, how healthy or how strong a living being is.
Advocates believe it's healthier, claiming it has more probiotics, enzymes, and nutrients than pasteurized milk. Some even say it can cure lactose intolerance, asthma, and chronic diseases like osteoporosis. Others blame pasteurized milk for modern health problems like obesity and argue raw milk is more natural and better for digestion. Health claims like this are actually spread all over the internet, so I had to do some serious research for this video, a lot of which was done with Ground News, an app and website that combines the world's news in one place, allowing me to compare coverage, making it less about raw milk actually coming from. Well, it started with research out of Switzerland, which showed that there may be a connection to children raised on a farm drinking raw milk and the development of healthier immune systems. This farm effect is actually incredibly interesting, as it was backed up by future studies conducted all across Europe and the US. These children that were raised on farms were truly found to have lower rates of allergies and asthma. It's speculated that their immune systems develop differently with more regulatory T cells that help prevent allergic responses. Raw milk may have also played a role because they have some non-specific bioactive molecules that may subtly play a role in immune development. Also, farm children develop gut microbiomes, that's the bacteria in your gut, that produce more butyrate. It's a metabolite that's been linked to reduced asthma risk. It's important to note these benefits.
If you go in ketosis, your liver will produce beta-hydroxybutyrate, then your gut microbiome will be sorted.
Were only seen with very early exposure, either in utero or during infancy. So the protective effect was diminished with later life introduction. So that's why the hype for adults doesn't make a lot of sense. Before we give raw milk a Nobel Prize though, we need to consider a few points. A, it's unclear to what extent raw milk alone contributes to allergy protection versus the combined effect of farm living. Exposure to animals, cowsheds, and fermented animal feed. There's something to be said about the hygiene hypothesis. B, most of these studies are based on small family-run farms in Europe. So it's unknown whether raw milk from industrial farms or cows in different environments will offer the same benefits.
That is very true. If you raise farms that are jacked up on antibiotics and other intervention, what the fuck do you think is going to happen to the milk? As I just described, animals will store toxins in the fat, and since milk is pretty high in fat and cows lactate a lot, they will use that as a detoxification pathways. So you end up with extremely toxic milk. Regardless of whether the bacteria are to blame or not, it's the other toxins that are found in the milk that will get you sick. Also, I remember Arjunus talking about this, where he did research on his lab, where if you already have present bacteria in a substance, it will basically protect the milk from other bacteria to invade it. This is the law of bacterial domination. If you've done any kind of fermentation at home, you will know that very well. Let's say when I make alcohol or vinegar at home, I will have like a sweet liquid, some juice, I would add some yeast, and then the yeast will proliferate and thus protecting the liquid from any other bacteria to grow. It will basically mean that the yeast will dominate, and then because of that, no other pathogens or bacteria will be able to grow. With the raw milk, it was the same. When the raw milk was intact with all its living bacteria, they tried to inoculate it with some arguably harmful bacteria, and they just couldn't grow. But once they pasteurized the milk, there was no competing for other bacteria. So when they inoculated the pasteurized milk, those bad bacteria thrive like crazy. Because once you pasteurize the milk, it is like a blank canvas where everything can grow. Everybody knows that in fermentation. It's just so fucking stupid. Fuck! I'm sick of it!
And finally, C, there are legitimate dangers to consuming raw milk, so let's touch on those. Raw milk is significantly more dangerous to consume than pasteurized milk.
Prove it.
It's 840 times more likely to cause significant illness. Between 1998 and 2018, raw milk caused over 2,600 illnesses, 228 hospitalizations.
How can you prove that it was a raw milk identically? There is such a multitude factors that can affect health, even when you eat. Even myself, when I had allergic reaction to certain foods, how can I know exactly that it was that? There's so many things that can get you sick just in one day. It's not like for the entire month they only drank milk and got sick from it. It's so stupid. These are association studies which are essentially meaningless. In my opinion, you can't rely on that. In fact, Arjunus van de Planets, in his books, Living Without Diseases, he showed significant proof that people were getting sick off of pasteurizing milk. It was the other way around.
128 hospitalizations and 3 deaths.
And 3 deaths? 3 deaths in 20 years. And it's illegal because of that. Seems a little sus, right? How many people die of alcohol each year? Let's go look it up. All right, so alcohol worldwide death per year, 2.6 million deaths per year. And you're worried about a fucking couple death that is basically impossible to prove based on raw milk, and it is illegal. What the fuck? Why don't you just fucking ban alcohol, you fucking pieces of shit? Do you see how fucking misleading that is? Wow.
Recent outbreaks have involved E. coli, salmonella, listeria, and even more scary,
A batch of whole raw milk being voluntarily recalled tonight in California after health officials detected bird flu in a sample sold in stores.
in states where raw milk isn't banned, there are protocols to prevent tainted milk from being bottled and sold. But most experts say these safeguards aren't completely reliable, as even a small amount of dirt on a cow's udders or on the hands of the person milking the cow can pose a risk. And testing for bacteria isn't a sure bet either, because they might be present at levels too low to detect. In fact, one popular supplier called Raw Milk Farm, which frequently boasts of struggling to keep raw milk on shelves because of so much demand, has had numerous outbreaks tied to its raw milk and cheese products. This is why pasteurization was created, and it certainly doesn't destroy all.
No, it wasn't. You should look into it. Why do you think they pasteurize milk when it, compared to alcohol, doesn't create as much illnesses or death per year? I'll let you reflect on that question very deeply. Another process which is problematic with modern milk is homogenization. What they do is they take the milk and they press it into like some presses, and they go through very, very fine filters, which breaks down the particles of fat and protein so small that they stay suspended in the air, suspended in the milk essentially, so that the cream won't separate from the milk. That is very problematic because the particles are so small that your body does not recognize it as entire proteins and fatty acids, which in some turns it's extremely hard for the body to digest it. Even heard some cases where those particles can enter the bloodstream more easily because they're so small and undetectable by the body essentially. So what we do when you pasteurize and homogenize milk, you are making it no longer a natural food. You are making it unrecognizable to the human body. We have been exposed to milk for thousands of years, but not a form of processed milk. In my opinion, all of that is just propaganda. There is a reason why the germ theory is called the germ theory. It was never proven. In fact, every single animal in nature do not wash their hands, do not brush their teeth, they do not sanitize anything, they sniff each other's ass, they touch and lick pretty much everything, and they don't get sick. They have no disease, they eat their food raw, unpasteurized, they have no diabetes, no cancers, no heart disease. Why the hell would humans, which we are animals from nature, would be the only exception to the rule? It is a fallacy, it makes no sense, it's not based in any fucking logic. It's stupid, because clearly it's only in the last 100 years that we had significant amount of severe diseases. Before that, it was almost unheard of. So think about that.
The good microbes in milk or significantly reduce its nutritional value. Pasteurized milk has just as much calcium and heat-stable vitamins like B6 and B12 in raw milk. So why is this movement suddenly gaining traction? It's probably not just about health. The modern raw milk movement is tied to a broader trend of distrusting experts and regulatory agencies like the FDA. Advocates see raw milk as a symbol of freedom and natural living. But drinking raw milk to make a statement seems pretty reckless. Take what happened in West Virginia in 2016.
Well, drinking alcohol is how many million times more reckless? Fuck me, man. How can you be so stupid? It's such... Oh, I can't take it. It's so dumb. We are legalizing things that kills and destroy life, and then we're going after a fucking naturally fine food just in the name of health. Oh, fuck you guys. Fuck this fucking shit. I'm done. Fuck guys, I don't know what to say, man. Go drink raw milk. I don't think there's any problem with that, as long as the milk is produced by healthy cows. This is very important. And as long as your genetic individuality can take it. I was lucky enough to be raised on raw milk when I was young, and I never got sick a single time. Please tell me in the comment down below, has any of you got sick off of raw milk and can prove and trace back that it was the raw milk the cause itself? And even all of that said, let's just speculate. Let's say there was a risk drinking raw milk. Wouldn't we, as free people, have the liberty to choose for ourselves? I think this is basically all we're asking for. The fundamental right to choose for ourselves whether we can drink raw, real milk directly from the cow. That's it. That's all we want. If you still want to drink the pasteurized garbage, go for it. Nobody fucking cares. Just let us drink our raw milk. That's all we want. Drink our raw milk and be left alone. Otherwise, that'll be it for today, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.